Booze cruises may be on the chopping block. Carnival may be about to put a big damper on their party reputation with this new announcement. And are you planning on getting on Carnival's newest XL class ship? Well, if the Jubilee is on your list, you're going to want to stay tuned for a list of which restaurants are going to be included in your cruise fare. Ahoy, travelers! It's Amy here with your weekly Cruise News Roundup and my thoughts on some of the biggest stories of the week. Well, we have all heard of booze cruises, and channel regulars will have heard me talk about some of my thoughts on how these booze cruises really contribute to some people seeing Carnival as a party line instead of the fun ships. Carnival's latest price hike lends some credibility to my theory. Just this week, it's been announced that people going on 3, 4, and 5-day cruises will have to pay more for the Cheers package than everybody else. Just those short cruises. Current pricing for the Cheers package is $60 a day per person if purchased prior to your cruise, and $65 a day if ordered on your cruise. For a 7-day cruise, that means $420. For a 4-day cruise, it would be $240. Yes, it is expensive, but for those who like to enjoy cocktails as part of their cruise, it can be a money saver when you take in the cost per drink on a cruise. Now, I'll leave a link below to my video on if drink packages are worth it for you, though. This week, Carnival announced a price hike of $10 a day per person for those shorter cruises to go into effect next week on any cruise booked after December 1st. And that means purchasing a Cheers package for a 4-day cruise is now going to be $280, $350 for a 5-day cruise, and $375 if you purchase on board for that 5-day cruise. Why just the shorter cruises, though? There has to be a reason for this. If it's to adjust for the increased cost of alcohol, then they would raise costs of the Cheers package across the board. And I didn't even notice much, if any, increase in costs on individual cocktails on my last cruise, so why is Carnival doing this? Now, I think it's part of their obvious push to revamp their reputation. They have advertised as the fun ship for years. Recently, they brought on Shaq to be their CFO, Chief Fun Officer. Drug dogs are now greeting guests at the terminal prior to embarkation to do more to keep illegal drugs off the ships. Fines and possible bans have been enacted to reduce fighting on board ships. And anyone who has been paying attention will recognize the line's obvious effort to clean up their image, whether it's warranted or not. Like I've said before, I believe that most of Carnival's bad press comes from these incidents happening on shorter cruises, and I think the latest move by the line indicates that Carnival thinks so too. Will it work? I don't know. Even with this price increase, is it going to reduce the amount of people booking these short cruises specifically to go and party for a long weekend? I just don't know that it will. Even at $70 a day, the cost is still cheaper than other lines, with Royal Caribbean charging $80 and Norwegian charging a whopping $90 a day. Now, of course, most people choose the free at sea package if they want to drink on a Norwegian ship, so I highly doubt anyone's actually buying that drink package. Even with this change, people wanting to book a 3-day cruise out of Miami for a bachelorette party are still going to find that Carnival's the cheapest option, usually both in the cruise fare and the booze costs. If you're booked on a 3 to 5-day Carnival cruise that sails after December 1st of this year and you're planning to get the Cheers package, do it now. Today, October 7th, is the last day to get it at the current price. So what do you think? Do you think this is about inflation or an attempt to reduce drunken fights and a party line reputation? Let me know in the comments which one you think it is. And be sure to vote on the poll I posted this morning on how many drinks you usually have a day when cruising. John Heald fielded a question this week on what foods would be included with the cost of the cruise on the Jubilee, at least for a while. We're going to get to that in a second, but before we do, if you enjoy this video and maybe even learn something, consider subscribing with the notification bell on so you don't miss any future posts. Be sure to hit that like button as well. It only takes a second, and doing so helps cruisers like you find us. Now, you guys know I love to keep up with John Heald over on his Facebook page. In fact, it's about the only reason I even get on Facebook anymore. Although there is a Cruising from the Ozarks Facebook page that I post on if you are a Facebook person and would like to follow us there. Anyway, while the way this person asked this question to John Heald was rude, to say the least. I am glad John chose to highlight the answer. I know that your cheerleaders, that's us. That's me. I'm a cheerleader. I'm a John Heald fan. I know that your cheerleaders will be their usual pathetic selves and try to protect you. There are many more, though, who grow tired of your lurid humor and wish for more substance and less childish joking. I have asked you repeatedly. Look, John Heald, most days of the week, posts on his page a thing that says, make your comments below, ask me any questions. I'll spend the next 8 hours answering questions, and he does. So I don't know where this guy's been asking this question, but it's not in those posts, because in those posts, he answers every question. Seriously. I have asked you repeatedly if chibang or cucina are going to be free to eat on Jubilee. Instead of wasting everyone's time reading through BS from you, perhaps you will one day make this a place that actually has some cruise information. DW, who's that? And I will be on a back-to-back in January. So this guy, obviously, not a fan of John Heald, doesn't like his sense of humor. That's fine. But to say that John Heald's Facebook page isn't full of information it's just asinine. I mean, he posts menus, the movies that are going to be shown for dive-in, any kind of information you can. It's one of the only lines that I have ever been able to find information that the line puts out on what kind of like parties they have planned. So like theme parties, like white nights and 80s nights and stuff like that, usually can be found on John Heald's page. And if not, you can ask him and he'll let you know. So there's so much information on that page. It's insane. So to say that it isn't, it really irritates me. John, in his typical British humor and stoicism, says, "Thank you, and I agree and understand that my humor is like a pair of Calvin Klein underpants and will not going to be one size fits all." So then let me address this for you and for everyone, but priority reading at this post will be given to my cheerleaders. Everyone else will only be allowed to read this after they have finished doing so. Thank you. Love it. Love that. John then broke down what is available on Carnival's other XL class ships, the Mardi Gras and Celebration, before listing what will be included eats on the Jubilee. So we see the Carnival Mardi Gras and Carnival Celebration. It talks about how Cucina del Capitino is $8 per person per meal, with one complimentary dinner per person. Chibang has one complimentary dinner and then $8 per person, same. Now, on the Carnival Jubilee, which was what this question is about, I understand why they would want to know this. Cucina del Capitino will be complimentary regardless of how many times you eat dinner there. So you could eat there every single night, as well as Chibang's. You can eat there as many times as you want, every single night if you want. There's no limit to that. And you won't be paying $8 if you go in twice. As you can see, this is a limited time offering, and it will only be available during the Jubilee's inaugural season. Now, how long will that be? Even John Heald isn't sure and said, "Now you're going to ask me how long is the inaugural season?" The answer, I really don't know. It could be a year, as it was on Mardi Gras and Celebration, and it could be a bit less. I will, of course, let you know. Reservations for those on your time dining can be made on the app while on board. Chibang and Cucina are part of the your time dining plan. That's what I always get. Guests not on your time dining can make reservations from 7:30 p.m. onward for dinner, perhaps before on less busy evenings. And he says, "Okay, non-cheerleaders, you can now have permission to read this post." FFS, which in John Heald world means for fun's sake. Love him. Really do. Now, usually an inaugural season does last a year, or possibly until the launch of the next ship. And that seems to be a whichever comes first scenario, though. So, like, if a new ship would to be launched before the end of the year is up, usually the prior ship's inaugural season finishes because the newest ship is starting their inaugural season. Carnival doesn't have anything coming up, though. Jubilee's the last thing they have on deck to be launched. Nothing else in the works. So probably, I think it's likely that Carnival will consider the Jubilee's inaugural season to be all of 2024. Eventually, however, cruisers can expect to see things revert to how they are on the other XL class ships. Are you booked on the Jubilee in 24? We're going to be on her in January, and it is our next cruise, and I'm so excited. I've never been on a ship this big, so it's going to be interesting to experience that as well as to get to try out some of these restaurants that are not available on Carnival's smaller ships. If you've been on the Mardi Gras or the celebration, let me know in the comments your favorite place to eat. I have a feeling that Chibang will be a big hit with me. I love both Chinese and Mexican food. I'm going to be working on getting out my Vista Cruise review. Hopefully it will drop this week, so keep checking back for that. In the meantime, why not stick around and check out this video on the awesome excursion I went on while in Belize, and then come back for more information designed to help you have an amazing cruise. Have a blessed week, everyone.